Welcome everyone to our City Council meeting for Monday, March 13th. If we could have a roll call, establish quorum, please, ma'am.
Peg Adamson.
Here.
David Mitchell.
Here.
Schneider.
Yep.
Bob Thomas.
Here.
Christy Kendrick.
Here.
Terry McClung.
I'm here.
We have 6.
All right, stand and pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
And I have a couple of items. One is to add Susie Allen for position 7 under the HDC. Her term's expiring, so she's presently on the HDC as it is. And also, I'd like to rearrange under new business items 3 and 4 and put them up under 1 and 2 while Lonnie's here. He hadn't been feeling well, and so if he can come in, and so we'll have any questions, we can talk to him about it and then get him on the way back home. Any other? If not, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved. Motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Terry seconded. Any corrections, additions, deletions? If not, all those who approve the minutes as submitted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's so moved. And basically that brings us down to HDC position 7 for Susie Allen. Commission would like to vote on her tonight or want to wait till next week?
I'd like to make a motion that we reinstate Susie.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's so moved. All right, that brings us, go ahead.
The vote for Mark.
Oh, Mark Ingram. Sorry about that. That wasn't read. Get a motion for approval of Mark Ingram.
Motion to approve Mark Ingram for position 4 on the HDC.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous.
That's great.
Thank you. All right, that brings us down to our public comments. We have some citizens out there. Hi, how are you?
Better now.
You're on.
All right, thank you. My name is Ray Bottomley. I live at 19 East Mountain Drive and been in Eureka about 40 years. I'm here to discuss the dilemma with the speed bumps. We have a solution, and I'll try to hurry. I have 6 months of study on this sheet, and I'm not going to get through it all. But you don't want a speed bump in front of your house. It's fireworks night and day. Bump, bump, crash, crash. Not an enjoyable time. You can't sit on your front porch. It's not quiet. So we want our quiet street back. Interesting thing, we have a vehicle encounter approximately every 5 minutes on the speed bumps. So 60-minute time, there's 60 vehicle encounters, 24 hours a day. It's almost 1,500 at each end of the street. So that's a lot of encounters. So I'm a numbers guy as long as it's not algebra. So I thought there's got to be a statistical way to analyze behavior with all these numbers. So I decided to do a study, a blind study, which is interesting. Keeps people from knowing what you're studying, so therefore they can't change their behavior. And interestingly enough, I came up statistically, no matter how many you counted during the day, no matter how many hours you spent, 15 minutes, half hour, there's 3 categories that we discovered statistically. You have to have a control group with a blind study. We have an easy one. It's the people who drive under control. They're not speeding. So 1/3 of the people who drive are not speeding, but they're penalized because they have to deal with the speed bump, and that's not fair. And a lot of these people are retired, they don't like speed bumps, and they're afraid of them. The problem is they stop at the speed bump and very cautiously go over them. This ensues the possibility of rear-end collisions. We've seen many situations where 2 or 3 vehicles come up the hill at speed and there's somebody sitting at the speed bump. Stop. So, lots of brake pressure. The second group are the speeders. They're the bold ones. They don't even slow down. Boom, boom, or they drive around them in private property. It's quite entertaining. The motorcycles jump them or they go around them. The third group are speeders also, but they do slow down at the speed bump, but then they accelerate back to speed over 25 miles an hour. These 3 groups, statistically, over 6 months of study, hours of counting cars, were just consistent all the time. So, this motivated my being here tonight. Is my time up?
3 minutes go by quick. You had a petition, I think?
I gave all that to
I know,
you.
and you want to mention that real briefly? And I don't know, did we put that out? Okay, yeah.
We have it.
All right. So,
Well, we're not trying to win a battle here. We're trying to reach understanding. Once you reach understanding, then you can make the right decisions. And I'm available for questions, if that's appropriate, or I can wait. Okay?
We can call you?
You can what?
We can call you?
You'd be welcome to call me. Sure. Anytime.
Please,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Christy Kendrick. Please contact me. I'd like to know what your proposals are for a solution.
We've got a solution.
this isn't the time really for...
No,
yeah,
just please.
Can I give you my
Give me a
phone
call.
number? I'll give you my phone number.
I'd like to know, too.
Okay.
What's your-
981-1908.
Got it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
That's pretty great.
My name is Joyce Knowles. I'm a deaf citizen of Eureka Springs. I'm denied access to city council meetings. I cannot hear you unless I see your face when you talk. If I sit behind you, I can hear sound, but it's not discreet enough for me to recognize words. Your televised city council meetings are not closed captioned. You do not provide a written transcript of city council meetings. I urge the council and the mayor to, number 1, move the meetings to a different venue and adopt a panel-style meeting similar to that of ADA compliant cities so your constituents can see and hear you conduct our business. 2, caption the televised city council meetings. Or 3, provide a written transcript of city council meetings. A community that excludes even one member is no community at all.
Hi everybody, my name is Eric Knowles. I reside at 2 Spur Lane in the city. I have 2 points I want you to consider. First, and it's about the water rates and the sewer rates. I would ask that you treat the water rates and sewer rates as distinct and separate issues. Each system should be treated independently and its rate adjusted to a level that meets its expenses. Previous discussions by the mayor and the council, as reported in the newspaper, have treated water and sewer shortfalls as one problem, proposing at one point that rates ought to be raised by an equal amount of 30% each, or ought to be compensated solely by sewer rate increases because they haven't been raised as recently as the water rates. I purchase water from the city. I do not purchase sewer services. I want to pay a fair rate for the water that I use. It would not be fair to put the whole burden of meeting the public works shortfall on the water rate. And also it would not be fair to put the whole burden on the sewer rate. Use of each service, water and sewer, users of each service should pay for the service that they use. Second, Eureka Springs has a tiered rate structure system based on how much water is used in a month. This is true of both water and sewer. Please consider how you can set rates separately for each tier, for each service, in a way that meets the goals of the city. Mayor Berry argued strongly last summer for transferring more of our utility costs to tourists who visit our city. Please consider doing this by raising the rates differentially by tier, so that the larger users pay a higher rate than the smaller users. Thank you for your time.
Ray, bottom line.
Okay. That concludes the public comments. So we'll continue on to our new business. The first item of business, I'd like to go ahead and have Lonnie come up and we can talk about discussion of the rates prior to our public hearing. We get a motion to
So moved.
We're doing 4 first?
yeah, we're doing 4 first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Get this out of the way. At our last meeting, we talked about having to have a public hearing, and we going to try to set the public hearing into this month. Discovered after looking at state law that we really can't establish a public hearing until we decide what we want to do on the rates. So, at least on the sewer rates. And so what we've come up with, and you guys also asked for a difference looking at how to approach the sewer and water rates in a different manner rather than just a 30% across the board. I think we've presented you with a proposal in your packet there for different scenarios. As it notes, I think, on your cover sheet, that the shortfalls in Fund 80, which is your water and sewer, for the last 10 years, averaged about $300,000 annually. And in order to cover the operating costs, according to our bond covenants, we're obligated to an additional 20% to meet the bond covenants in through there. And that's basically where we were talking about with our rate increase last time. But we also have an additional 3% for depreciation, so it's really a total of 23%. So, but the bottom line is that what we needed was to increase our revenues from the users' rates a minimum of approximately $387,000 annually. So we got 2 scenarios that we presented to you. One was 30% across the board increase on water and sewer, and I think we show that. Should be that's it. Yes. Exact line. Yeah. Okay. The second page. Basically, what the second page shows that if we did a 30% rate increase on water and sewer, for the Tier 1, it would be, and people are wanting to know exactly how much it would cost. It was $6.21. For Tier 2, it's $15.39. And for Tier 3, it's $781.95. In looking at that, that seemed to be a pretty high rate exorbitance across the board on to get where we wanted to do. What we've come up with was something that a lot of cities do, including Holiday Island, as Mickey pointed out today, but also the city of Fayetteville has what they call users' fees. On this, we're looking at putting a user fee that would be for what we're calling a bond fee, bond user fee, a Tier 1. That would be a monthly increase of $5. And Tier 2 would be an increase of $20, and Tier 3 would be an increase of $55. That by itself would also raise $413,000 doing it in that manner, which seemed to be a lot more equitable both to the Tier 3 users, the commercial users, and also on the Tier 1, which is your residential users, on the basic minimum users, I should say. So that's kind of where we came up with the two different scenarios on that. And I actually got kind of excited when looking at just doing the bond fee. I thought that was a pretty good deal. But I'm going to leave it up to open for discussion. So, Christy?
First of all, I'd like to point out, thank you for attaching the statutes, because they do provide that the sewer rates be just and equitable and sufficient. And I think by raising rates on both the water and the sewer, we are not raising the rates on the sewer enough to be sufficient to cover the cost of the sewer. So first of all, I think we are deficient in that area. Secondly, I don't find the bond service fee to be just and equitable. The statute states that the rates have to be just and equitable for the use of and service rendered by, and it isn't fair considering the amounts of water and sewer that are used. I have no problem with maybe with the additional rates not going up on through the tiers in amounts, but I find the amount that's raised on Tier 2 to be very inequitable.
Yes, ma'am.
When you're talking about Tier 2, is that on this scenario number 2?
Yes.
Or scenario number 1?
I guess what I clarified is I understand these 1, 2, and 3 accounts.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But the Tier 1 are those that use the minimum 2,000 gallons. Tier 2 are those that use, I don't know, I guess the next 8,000, I think, as I recall off the top of my head. So they use up to 10,000 gallons. And so they're being billed their first 2,000 gallons at the Tier 1 rate and the next 8,000 gallons at the Tier 2 rate. And then the Tier 3 would be people that are billed at the 3 different levels. The first 2,000 at one rate, next 8,000 at another rate, and then the remainder at a higher rate. It seems like people that are, half of the accounts or I guess a little less than half of the accounts in the city are bearing most of the burden on this, whatever you call the fee that you're charging rather than rates. And it is a fee, not a rate. It's not based on the usage.
Was that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I see what she's saying, and I mean it is kind of giving them a 40% rate increase. That's middle tier, and that not that it appears to have to be a whole lot of money percentage-wise. It's a major increase. But seeing how you're trying to do this and get at the same kind of revenue pretty much as the 30% across the board, could we do 30% increase on Tier 1, Tier 2, and then the commercial, which is Tier 2, is there commercial in that too? I suppose there is, isn't there?
The smaller places.
Yeah, that'd be some commercial in there.
Shops.
Shops are probably Tier 1, actually.
Yeah, they probably are.
What about making, if you did the 30% on the first 2 tiers and then a 20 or 25% on the third tier instead of a 30%? I mean, it would be a little bit less than what you're shooting for, but it would not be as high. I'm just throwing that out there.
Which scenario are you talking about?
On service
One.
fee.
First one.
The second one?
No, the first one. 30%.
30%.
It says 13%.
No, that's the number of users. It's 13% of the water users.
Oh. Okay.
No, it's 30%. If you went 30%, 1 and 2, and then a significantly less amount, but it still has to be in a 20 to 25% range.
If
Probably
we did the 30% on Tier 3, we're looking at $780 a month increase.
I understand that. And that's huge. What I'm talking about is cutting that back to a 20 to 25% instead of the 30, and kind of run the numbers and see where that would be. Probably not be too hard to calculate, actually.
Another thought might be to charge all the tiers an increase that is the same amount for all usage of water. So a flat usage fee, no matter what the volume of water is, and only on the increased portion. Okay.
You'd never get to the desired dollar that you needed.
And remember, we're paying the Carroll Boone Water District for the water too.
And that's, yeah, okay. But that's water, that's not sewer.
David?
Of the 2 options here, the 30% rate increase at Tier 3 is shocking. And the distributed bond service payment, while I've heard it needs to be just and equitable and sufficient, looks far closer to being more just and equitable and sufficient than the 30% one, unless I'm having a mental dementia breakdown here or something. So at the same time, the Tier 1, which would be, 792 accounts, which pretty well takes care of probably most of the retired people in their little homes and everything here, a $5 increase certainly seems more justified for that particular category of residents that we're trying to not overly impact. So,
Mickey?
I think some clarification needs to be done in regards to, apparently I'm the only one at council who actually went to the water department, spent hours there getting numbers. This breakdown of tiers 1, 2, and 3, almost all of the smaller hotels, motels, restaurants, businesses, shops, the whole 9 yards, end up under Tier 1, almost all of them. All your smaller families, like me and my husband, 2 people, yes, we're definitely Tier 1. The vast majority are under Tier 1. We do have that little bit higher echelon that's in Tier 2. We have very small, huge hotels, motels, whatever, and a couple of really big restaurants that are actually Tier 3. I've got actual numbers for customer names for each account, which includes most of our apartment buildings, the few that we have. It's not under the apartments, under each individual apartment name, each person. So these numbers are actually probably a little bit different from that. Plus that part, and I don't know where what time of the year these numbers came from, but depending on the time of year, depends on those numbers. Like on my printout, for Tier 1, middle of the year, we could have 13,000 customers. Give us the end of December, and we drop to 5,000. See what I mean? So you have to take those kind of things into effect. But just so everybody knows, very, very few businesses, and that's where the big problem is and the big push to not do anything seems to be is with the really huge places, because they would get hit the hardest on that last set of numbers. I like both of these breakdowns. I don't know about the, and I was the one who brought up this scenario too. Isn't that the Holiday Island breakdown thingy? The scenario 2, the bond thing?
Partially can.
Yeah, that was one of the things that the island does. They do several things that was really intriguing. But this works, And as far as sewer goes, now we've had one person a while back that said, well, maybe we should expand city limits so we can get more customers. Well, I'm sorry that doesn't work because we still haven't covered water and sewer on the expansions we've had over the decades. So we can't expand any more in that regard. I'm confused, Mayor. You might remember. I know we talked about making in city limits sewer hookup and usage mandatory. Whatever happened with that? That was discussed. I honestly don't remember. It might be 10 years ago. I honestly don't remember what happened. But if you were in city limits and the sewer lines went by your property, you had to hook up. That was the discussion, and I don't remember what happened. But I know if you're in city limits, you're supposed to be hooked up to water, and we were trying to get rid of the things that they use if they're not hooked up.
There's some places that still don't have sewer run to them.
Right, but what about the places that do? Because I know we still have people not hooked up.
I would say that if there's any that are not hooked up, it would be minuscule, where the city sewer is available.
Well, for the people who are not hooked up to sewer because we don't have it out there, which is what I had just said before, they don't get a sewer fee on their water bill, do they?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
Okay, so for those people, it wouldn't matter if sewer rates went up because they're not being charged for sewer, because they're not using sewer, right? Right? Okay. Anyway, so like I said, I kind of like both ways. The island had some really interesting other little tidbits thrown into theirs. I don't know if we can handle it, but...
All right. Bob, you got any comments?
I'm a little confused.
Thank you.
The Tier 3 people, 246 accounts, if you go up 30%, they're going to pay almost $800 more each per month. And that's going to equal the same amount of money that you can raise if they pay a $55 each.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Your math is down there at the bottom. Yeah.
I see that. Because with the bond service fee, you're going to raise an additional $4,000 from Tier 2. You're going up $5 more in Tier 2. So you're getting, so in Tier, it just doesn't, I'll have to go home and use my calculator.
Lonnie, you want to jump in there?
Well, I pulled a lot of this information from 2016 off the computer programs, and and massaged it and back and forth and everything. And this, we have a target amount that we need to come up with, and so there's a lot of calculations and everything that went into both of these. Then I enlisted Ken's assistance in this also, and to put it together in a legible form and to see if it made sense. And so the one thing that I can say, and I think the calculations at the bottom pretty much will tell you the story. And like I said, I took data from the entire 12 months of 2016 and then broke it down. But one thing that hasn't been mentioned, that if you go the 30%, and I'm not saying what you should do because it's a decision of council, but if you raise the rates and everything, those are for the most part permanent. If you do the bond service fee, it will sunset in 10 years because our bonded indebtedness will be paid off in 2027. And so all of it that's related to water and sewer. So that's another thing I think to look at, is that in 10 years with the bond service fee, it will be gone because the bonds will be paid. So at any rate, to go through all the calculations that I went through, I can't stand up here tonight and do that.
So, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, if you wanted to put the onus of the burden on the sewer charge, would you just basically switch all this amount down to sewer and not? Would you have to do that, or what?
I think we'd have to relook at that, Bob. I don't think we can. I could stand here and tell you that we can make that decision right here, Johnny, on the spot, because I think it would take a lot more calculations and everything to come up with that.
Because the $300,000 shortfall annually is really in the sewer department, isn't it? Water has always profited, or at least.
It's not a shortfall. We've just got to meet that covenant that we're not meeting.
Right.
I mean, so it's not necessarily a shortfall. And we did look at our last council meeting. I gave you another little scenario, and I don't have that in front of me. And I think to raise just the sewer, it was something like 64%, and I'm going off the top of my memory, just on sewer charges to equal this same amount.
It was 70. I just lost it.
74%.
It's right here. I'm looking right at it.
But anyway, that would, so, we just kind of dismissed just putting everything on sewer.
Oh, 67.36%.
Okay.
And we would have rounded that to 70 if we were doing sewer only.
All right. Kendricks?
I would just like to make the point that I feel that we're throwing Tier 2 under the bus for tourist usage of water and sewer.
David?
I was reading the first part here again, and the needed increase revenue is a minimum of $387,000, and the scenario 2 distributed bond service fee raises $413. So we have a bit of a buffer there of about $20-some thousand.
Infrastructure.
But again, I go back to the different tiers here, and I look. I guess the one I'm most sensitive to is Tier 1, and the people that are in Tier 1, and this one comes getting closer to taxing the users and the tourists, the use of water. Because I guarantee you that I only have 3 rooms, and each one has huge jacuzzi tubs in them. And I don't know if these people never bathed in their life by the time they get here. But that jacuzzi gets filled and filled and filled. I mean, they're in that thing like it's unbelievable. So obviously, my water will not be in Tier 1. But at the same time, I'm just very sensitive to those folks that are at that level, and this scenario 2 seems, maybe it's not the most equitable, just, or sufficient, but it's certainly pretty close to it.
Ms. Schneider?
This is a tourist town. I am not about to sit there and pay $50 million a year because we have a whole lot of visitors taking hour-long showers. When you live in a tourist town, accommodations are made in regards to the use of water, depending on the kind of town that it is. We do a lot of water usage. Therefore, the areas that have more tourist usage than regular are the ones who have to pay, so to speak. Going from $5 a month, most of our families can afford that. It can be tight. Haven't been there and done that. Most of them can afford that. A mere $20 a month for Tier 2 is no big deal. $55 a month for a huge motel is no big deal. Same with the other scenario. Those are not that bad. The ones who use it are the ones who need to pay. And there's a lot of different ways to collect that extra little bit. I've mentioned in the past, a $1 surcharge per room, per night, big deal. It's hard to enforce, but it's possible. But these numbers are all doable by everybody in town, be it a family or be it a business. And even if we tweak some of the numbers, make water 30%, like on scenario 1, and sewer 40%, because we haven't had an increase on that for like 8 years. Something like that is doable also, you know, or upping it a little bit on the second one. But those who use need to pay, and there are ways to get it.
What's her face here? I look at these numbers like magic. You know, it's like, whoa. But when you say that you felt Tier 2 was being thrown under the bus, what did you mean by that? Because when I look at that $20 increase in this scenario number 2, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I'd like to know what you mean.
Well, I feel that Tier 2 is paying much in the increase between Scenario 1 and Scenario 2. That increase is paying for Tier 3 usage, essentially. If you compare Scenario 1 with Scenario 2,
right.
Tier 1 is going down from 1 to 2, and Tier 3 is going way down from Scenario 1, but Tier 2 is going up. So Tier 2 is picking up that difference. So basically, rather than it being distributed equally among all of the accounts and the rates that we're doing, is we're putting the burden on Tier 2 to pick up for Tier 1 and Tier 3.
What would you propose would be?
I think Tier 1 is much fairer. I don't think it meets. It's much fairer than Scenario 1. However, I don't think it meets the requirements of the law that require that sewer rates be sufficient, because they're raising it on the water as well as the sewer. And so the sewer rates are not being raised enough to be sufficient to fund sewer operations.
Okay. I think I get that.
Nikki?
You aren't raising any kids here. Having raised between 2 to 5 children here while working 3 jobs, I'm telling you, you're not adding anything to Tier 1 except for maybe this little bit that's on there. Tier 2, you said, goes way up. No, it doesn't. Tier 1 is from 0 to 2,000 gallons of usage a month, and that's whether you use 1 gallon or 2,000. It's $11.20, period. Tier 2 is 2001 to 8,000, and those 6,000 gallons each cost $4.29 per the thousands, okay? Then Tier 3 actually goes up from that from 429 to 574. So Tier 1 is already being hit double what those other ones are. So no, we're not adding anything major to them. Everything turns out being fine. The one who's using the most is the one that has the slightly, by like 50 cents, higher price than scenario or Tier 2. So I don't see that there's anything inequitable whatsoever about either one of these. Like I said, I spent hours at the water department getting numbers, going through, working stuff out, doing pros and cons and ups and downs.
David?
What were you hoping was going to happen other than just talk tonight?
Well, if we can make a decision on what you want to do, we can go ahead and still have a public hearing by our next meeting. We've just got to have the decision made what y'all want to do. We can still hold a public hearing. We have to just notify it within, have it 10 days, published in the paper 10 days prior to the meeting,
Okay. Well,
which we can do.
for fun and grins and to see what happens and keep discussion going, I make a motion that we consider rate scenario number 2, distributed bond service fee, as applicable with the handout that was given to us.
Point of order. I believe that at either our last meeting or the meeting before, we had agreed on the 30% increase.
We did have it, but the council can also change their mind, too.
Certainly we can, but...
Is that not true?
Well, I'm just trying to determine...
It was 30 versus 70 was what we had.
We were also asked to come back with some other alternatives, I believe, at the same time.
Yep, before making a final decision.
So do we need to go back and rescind that motion that was hanging out there and
Let's see what, read the minutes, Madam Clerk.
Wasn't it just to do the 30 instead of 70? You made
Vicki,
the motion.
Vic,
Oh,
Madam Clerk.
sorry.
Please, ma'am.
Mr. Weaver confirmed the sample ordinance could be prepared and changed if necessary. Discussion followed about publishing the hearing notice, exploring other possible rate adjustments, current sewer rates, and provided a printed summary for public consideration. It was agreed to have the public hearing on Wednesday, March 29th at 6 o'clock in a location that will be announced. The mayor called for a vote.
And the vote was for?
To have the public hearing.
Oh.
I believe it was in an earlier meeting.
But that phrase right there, exploring other possible rate adjustments, I think is...
So we didn't have a motion to flat do a 30% rate increase?
Agreed.
I thought it was in an earlier meeting.
Okay, so it was at that meeting. It was the only time we discussed the rate increase on 30%. So we do have, David's motion was to...
With no second.
For discussion, I guess, was rate scenario 2.
There was no second.
Yeah. We hadn't had a second
I
yet.
thought we got interrupted.
Motion to consider scenario number 2.
Oh. I don't know. I like them both.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right. So...
A motion to consider it?
that was the motion.
Well, I can change the word to pass it.
All right.
I don't know. They're both good.
All right. Terry, you want to rescind your motion here?
Second.
That's
I'll rescind the motion.
I guess. I mean,
I'll rescind the
Put the
second.
second back.
Okay.
Now you want a new one?
Yes.
No. Okay. I make a motion that City Council accept rate scenario number 2, distributed bond service fee, as illustrated in the handout.
For purposes of your
to prepare an ordinance.
meeting.
One more
Yes.
time.
This is only for the purpose of the public hearing.
For the purpose of the public hearing.
Yeah. So you're not actually approving the
Yes,
rate
yes.
change tonight,
Yes.
which you can't do.
I think there's confusion here. Okay, the motion is to, it's accepting scenario number 2 on the, based on the proposal we've given for the purpose of the public hearing,
Holding a public hearing.
for holding a public hearing. It's not saying that we're going to raise the rates, it's just saying that this is a proposed rates that will be before the public hearing. The council still can go ahead and change and make decisions
Is
on what
not
they
a
want to
public
do.
hearing supposed to be giving them all the facts? Why are we limiting it to one thing? Why are
Because
we
we
not
have to-
telling them
we
all
have
of
to do
it?
by state law.
So
what
the
rates
motion should
are.
be that we accept these pages for the public hearing
I don't
to
even
give
think we got
them.
a second yet, so.
True.
I second it.
Okay.
Now you can ask a
Okay,
question.
now
All right,
discussion.
Mr. McClung, do you have a question?
Well, yeah, I mean, just to real quickly, just to answer Mickey, I mean, there are a lot of things that are going to be discussed at the public hearing. You just got to have a focal point to start from. But I guarantee you there's going to be all kinds of things that people are going to throw out. But this, and I pushed the numbers around for the tier 2 and then on the other for tier 3 on the 30%. And you know, the middle group is going to absorb the brunt of it, but overall it may be the way to go. I don't, you know, I'm certainly not opposed to it, is what I'm saying.
Ms. Kendricks?
I just would like to point out that the statute requires that the council establish the rates by ordinance, and then after the ordinance is introduced and before it's finally enacted is the hearing. So if this is what we pass, that's passing an ordinance, at least reading it the first time.
Mr. Weaver?
Maybe right.
I don't have that copy, I don't think. No.
You need a copy? Here.
Let's see.
This one? Talks about having an ordinance for hearing?
Is there anywhere that it says we're limited to one public hearing? That might save us some time.
Is that your question?
As in, we can always have 2.
Are you referring to D, 1A, and B?
I don't have it in front of me, the city attorney asked me.
That's what she's referring to, yeah. It does appear that there should be a drafted ordinance.
But it doesn't preclude us from having a public hearing first and then that kind of
Yes, it
public
does.
hearing, does it?
It does appear to.
Really?
Yes.
We can't just go ahead and have a public hearing so we can lay things out to them before we do it like all of that and then hold a public hearing with what we came up with?
It appears the intent is so that the populace will know exactly what the city council is proposing to enact.
Right, but if we want to have a public hearing to get their input, we legally can.
You could have something
That's what I'm
as
talking
a
about.
town hall meeting,
Town
like,
hall, that was the phrase I was looking for.
rather than a public hearing.
Yes, that's
and
the
have a
phrase
public
I'm
hearing
looking
later.
for.
But
So they can know what our options are, see what options they have, because this is a very serious, hard-hitting issue for everybody, be it a family or a business. And I think rather than try to rush this through, we need to take a little bit of time and give the people plenty of time for their input.
David?
I don't think anybody's rushing. I think we're just trying to get something done so we can get to that public hearing, folks, to get the input.
Where is it you're reading this from? I'm sorry, just what part?
Bob?
Right there
As I
and there.
understand it,
It is,
Christie, just a moment.
These two right there.
Bob?
as I understand it, if we we could authorize Tim to write an ordinance tonight, then we could have a public hearing. After the public hearing, you can make any changes and modifications that you want to based upon citizen
Then the
input.
people can only be given one input.
Why?
Because that's what it says. You have to tell them what the
Well, why do you
ordinance
have
is
a...
going to be.
But you can change the ordinance.
After,
Exactly, right.
why not have a town hall, give them all the options, listen
Because
to
then
theirs,
you've got
and
to,
then do
then
it.
you've got to do an ordinance, and then you've got to do a public hearing.
Yeah, so
Well, why not
what
just...
is the rush? Rather than not get it all done right the first time?
So, Bob?
Well, I'm just saying, you can have your public hearing, and then you can make all the changes and the modifications based upon the public hearing and the citizen input
Ms. Kendricks?
without another public hearing.
The statute says, after it talks about the public hearing, it says, after the hearing, the ordinance establishing rates or charges, either as originally introduced or as modified and amended, shall be passed and put into effect.
That's what Bob said.
I thought that's
And
what I
that's why I said a town hall.
Mr.
would
Mayor.
do that.
Mr. Mayor, that's true. Whenever we're ready to present an ordinance, then we'll have to have a public hearing. But that doesn't stop us from having a public hearing before we do anything anyway. We have public hearings all the time. What difference does it make? We can do whatever the heck we want. I see no problems.
Not just me. Let the people know.
I mean, there's nothing, we're not presenting an ordinance, but then when we go and when we really decide what we want to have, then we prepare the ordinance, and then we have another one. Then we have to have one that is specific to it. But to have one in generalization, there's no reason why we can't do that.
And it can still be changed even after the public hearing.
Well, sure. It can be
think
tweaked then, too. But
We should be talking about a workshop and a public hearing. A public hearing is a more legal, official meeting.
no, it's not a voting meeting. A workshop is still not a voting meeting, or a public hearing is not a voting meeting. We don't take any action at that meeting.
But you can have a workshop without a notice in the newspaper. A public hearing, you need to publish a notice in the
But we
newspaper.
want the people to know so they come.
Well, yeah, I would rather do it as a public hearing and publish it.
Or a town hall. Either one would work, either phrase. Can I throw one more tweak in that's going to blow everybody's mind?
Maybe.
Oh, boy. Have you heard that since I talked to you a couple days ago?
Let's not talk about that right now.
They have to know.
Subject altogether.
Okay. When we have a special election, it may not be really, really fair. So we have plenty of time.
It's a separate subject.
Peg,
I'm just leaving it at
did you have
that.
a question?
I think I had a question, yeah. I can see the advantage of having the public hearing based on making a motion on this, because then you take this, as I understand it, you take this scenario number 2, it's published, people can see this, and then when they come to the public hearing, they can add their 2 bits worth. Is that correct?
We can actually, the city and the papers, I'm sure, will publish both of these scenarios, because they want to know what scenario 1 and scenario 2 is.
Because I think that there are really some, like with Dee coming up with his own rate schedule, and Lonnie coming up with these rate schedules, that it is a format in which you can actually tweak things, and maybe there would be something more fair in the future, if we have more public input. That's, I just think there's a lot of expertise in town. There's a lot of rabble-rousers, too.
All right.
And she's looking at you, not me.
Ms. Kendricks?
We did pass a motion to put in for 30% increase in water rates and proceed into a public hearing. That was passed, and that was in the February 13th minutes.
So this actually is this the 30% increase then? Is it? I'm sorry.
Scenario 1.
Scenario 1 is.
Yeah.
Bob?
Well, we did that, but we were acting not in accordance with state law because we didn't have an ordinance. You have to have an ordinance to have a public hearing. We can't just approve 30%. I'm sorry, I'm reading the law.
All right.
We haven't passed anything. We're not trying to pass anything yet.
You know,
She said from the other meeting.
Right, from the other meeting.
I understand.
let's try to get this on
Yeah.
track. What, you know, what,
The
if we had a
past
motion and a
doesn't count
second.
Because it was illegal.
Well, how about I just withdraw that motion? Let's clear all this, clean the
Okay.
table up.
I take my second back.
Now, it sounds like, if I'm not mistaken, that everybody wants to have some type of community type of meeting, call it whatever we want, just to test the water, and then based on testing the water, the scenarios will be looked at and one will be presented, which will be turned into an ordinance that will lead to a public hearing, which will lead to a vote. Did I mess up somewhere?
That's it.
It seems
To make a
like...
motion.
So do we have to make a oh, that was a motion. Just put that into one.
So we have a town
We can
hall.
still have, I mean, we set the date, whatever it was,
The 29th.
the 29th, and we can still keep that same date
Yeah.
and still have it. I think we're going to look at using the auditorium.
Okay.
And we can still use that date for, you know, public comments, public, you know.
Public comments sounds good.
Yeah. Mr. McLeod?
I think that's a fine idea, and then we can tweak either one of these, and then prepare our ordinance. I mean, it's a big deal.
It works.
So
It is a big deal.
we can't rush it.
So second his new motion.
I already did.
The new one?
So yeah. So I think that's the thing to do. I agree with that.
See if the clerk has the motion down.
It was far to have a workshop or a public hearing or whatever the heck we want to call it, and. I mean,
That's pretty good so
we're
far.
going to have
a workshop.
a town hall
You've done
meeting or
good.
something on the 29th.
Rubber stamp.
There.
Yes, that works.
Based on the two scenarios
Thank you.
at the auditorium. Okay.
Is that the,
I would, and I'm sure both the papers will print something to that effect in the articles, but I don't know if they do public service ads, but I would like to see maybe some kind of a display ad, you know, a block ad in the papers that, you know, that make reference to this, you know, because people may or may not read the whole article and may miss it, but if there's something that's bold and stands out, maybe they'll see it better. I would like the attendance to be good.
Okay. Ms. Kendricks?
I would like to amend the motion so that it also considers raising the rates only on sewer. That's a whole different scenario. It's another scenario. If we're just having a general public hearing, then we should...
We'll be able to talk about anything and everything at the public hearing.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, a lot of things will be discussed at that public hearing, a lot of things.
You know, I can give the newspaper a copy of they should have a copy of the last time what I distributed, which talked about raising just the sewer rates, so they have that information. If we raise the sewer rates, it's going to be approximately 70% or whatever, 68.75%. So the paper has that, and we can have that available, all this information, at that public meeting.
Just to move this on, I call the question.
Second.
All right, all in favor of calling the question, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, we've got a motion to have a public meeting at the auditorium to discuss discuss the water and sewer rates, in particular rates scenarios 1 and 2, but also other information regarding the sewer and water rates. Okay. Anybody, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we will do that.
That would be aye.
Aye, aye. All right, thank you, guys. All right. We've got another resolution in front of you. Let's find it here.
Motion to discuss.
Get a second?
Second.
Which one?
Are you going to 3 now?
property.
Yes, you're going to number 3. All right. This is a resolution authorizing the refinancing of existing police department franchise land. What we're doing is because of the we had talked about being able to build capital projects down at the down at the sewer plant, in particular a chemical storage building, purchasing a generator, and also building out a testing lab. So we would have, in the long run, we would end up saving our operation costs on an annual basis. Between the chemical storage and I forgot now what the exact cost is. I want to say our testing lab runs around $50,000 a year. Okay. Anyway, and the same thing with chemical storage. It's tens of thousands of dollars. I got to thinking when we elected a new president. And what I'm reading from the papers is that interest rates are going to be going up. So what I have been suggested is that we go ahead and get bids, not necessarily on a fixed loan, because I'm going to come before the council with what it's going to cost for these projects, but to get a what they call a pre-approved rate that will fix the interest rates for right now, so when we want to come back and get the financing, that they would do this. Mr. McClellan.
They'll only fix that for a certain length of time, so you got to move pretty quickly.
Well, according to one of the bankers that I've talked to, it'd be good for at least 6 months.
Oh, really? That long?
So he wasn't concerned too much about what was happening. He said if we go ahead and do it, they will go ahead and get us a fixed rate.
Okay. Well, that's
pre-existing.
That's generous.
And that's not a line of credit. It's just fixing the interest rates for right now until I can come back and get the. And I'm hoping we'll have those figures. I've been pushing. We're trying to get the engineering fees, figuring out what it's going to cost us to build the new storage tank, and the actual cost of the storage tank, plus the generator, plus the chemical, or the testing lab. But all 3 of those we've talked about in the last 6 months are needed that would save the city money in operating cost. Plus, if we refinance that, our loan right now is at 5 3/4. And so our last loan rate that we got was 2.6%. So not only would we be saving money, we'd have a cash flow savings too on our cost, even if we just refinance what we owed. So, Mr. Mitchell.
The refinancing of this loan is not to exceed $500,000. How much is the payoff on the police department? $160,000. So we have about $340,000 then to use towards this other stuff. And I remember these conversations in the past, and you gave a lot more detail back then. So, and that makes sense. That I'm pretty sure that's going to cover everything that you wanted. So, okay.
Mr. McClellan?
Did they give any kind of indication what the current rate was? Just curiosity.
To give to us right now?
Yeah.
It would be in the 2% rate. The banks get
2 to 3%.
The banks get a preferential, give us a preferential rate because they get a discount.
Sure.
Because we're tax exempt on there. Bob?
Why couldn't we just do the resolution for you to seek the proposal and lock in the rate, but not to refinance the police department until we know exactly how much money you want to get?
Well, this is not to exceed. We're not going to go out and get the actual loan. I'm not going to get the loan. This is just actually locking in the rate.
It says to seek proposals and to refinance the existing police department property loan. up to $500,000. I would rather authorize you to go out and lock in, a loan rate, but then come back with specific figures in terms of how much the loan is going to be specifically.
That's exactly what would happen once we figured out what we're going to get the loan for. But Mr. Weaver, do you have a thought on that?
Maybe I'm missing your distinction, Councilman, that this says for them to seek proposals. This is not authorizing the mayor to sign a $500,000 loan.
Well, Section 1 says to seek proposals and to refinance the existing police department property loan.
Maybe it should say refinancing.
I'm not seeing,
Section 1.
let's see.
After the now, therefore.
Yes, okay. You could remove the word to refinance for the purposes of possible refinance. Yeah, I see what you're saying. No. Or just remove the word and.
So it would say to seek proposals to refinance?
Is that what you were saying?
I think that would satisfy your
To seek
concern.
proposals to refinance?
Scratch the word "and" takes care of it. Okay.
Yeah, to seek proposals to refinance.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Mitchell?
Well, based on that, I make a motion we sign this resolution and number and read it for passage.
Second.
As amended.
As amended. Thank you.
All right, any discussion? Okay.
And Terry, you were the second?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Gladly. Honorably.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider?
Yep.
Ms. Adamson?
Yes.
Ms. Kendrick?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you.
The resolution number will be 706. A resolution authorizing the refinancing of existing police department franchise loan. Whereas the City of Eureka Springs seeks proposals to refinance the existing police department property loan, which is funded by the franchise tax. The refinancing of this loan is not to exceed $500,000 and will be used to pay off the existing participation loan and for other legal purposes. And whereas the City Council of Eureka Springs understands the need for refinancing the existing loan. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas that Section 1, the City of Eureka Springs Mayor is hereby authorized on behalf of the City of Eureka Springs to seek proposals to refinance the existing police department property loan.
All right. Thank you all.
That's cool.
Okay. Next item, we're going back under our normal scheduled and would be code and code enforcement, Ms. Adamson, Ms. Schneider.
Yeah, I make a motion to discuss code and code enforcement.
Okay?
Second.
Thank you. I wanted to thank everybody who has answered my questions. And I always have lots of questions. And a lot of the questions that come to me are about code and code enforcement. And there's some confusion. I have 3 questions. And I thank you for coming in today, Mr. Bobby Ray. I appreciate it. Since you are the code enforcement department.
Yes, ma'am.
And the building inspector as well, right? So I thank you for that, and I appreciate you coming in. So I had 3 questions. 1, what is the process for enforcing a code violation? 2, how is it determined who gets a citation? And 3, if there is a code that's not enforced, what is the point to having codes or ordinances? So the first question is probably the most straightforward, which is, what's the process for enforcing a code violation? How does it start?
Typically, it's from either I actually see it or I receive a complaint.
Okay.
I prefer a written complaint. That way I can have it for the file. Then I proceed and go out and do a inspection on the possible violation. If the violation does exist, most normally I will speak to the property owner. Essentially, they will get a verbal warning that they are in violation of this. I usually give them a few days to take care of it. If not, they receive a written. The old style written gave them 3 days. The new ordinance, depending on what the violation is specific to 10 days, 10 calendar days.
Okay.
At which point they are issued that warning. I try in a timely manner, if that 10 days is up, to go back. If they're not, if they haven't rectified the violation or in the process, and I don't mean waiting till that 10th day. If they contact me and they're trying to do what they can, depending on the severity of the violation, if they're showing me that they're working on it to get it done, no citations issued. The citations usually issued whenever they refuse to come in compliance or they stop trying to rectify the situation.
Okay.
And that's essentially just a summons to appear in court.
So then, if they get a summons to come to appear in court, what happens then?
The judge hears the case, and municipal code does not give a certain fine amount. It's from no less than $50 to a maximum of $100, depending on what the violation is. And the judge typically sets that fine then. In my experience, in the past, it usually was just a slap on the wrist. It wasn't a substantial fine.
Yeah. Does it cost us to use the court system?
I don't know if it actually costs.
Like cost the city?
Well, it would cost us as far as the legal representation by the city attorney.
Okay. So Mr. Weaver would have to be there?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's classified as a misdemeanor, it would be just like a criminal issue.
It's handled right along with the traffic citations
Yes.
and other...
Okay. So like a list of these that go before the judge?
There are usually 40 to 100 cases on any one court date.
Okay. How many?
40 to 100.
Oh, wow.
And they're not all code. Very few of them are code. Most of them are driving while intoxicated or beating your wife or something.
Public intox, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
They're all over the spectrum of what the police officers have filed that month.
Mr. Weaver, don't those also have, they're a fine plus court costs?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So it is a kind of a lengthy process then for...
Yes.
Okay. We're about to look at this, the smoking ordinance. And that's sort of an example to me of how are you going to enforce a smoking ordinance? There's people in the park smoking. Do you give them a ticket or?
Typically, more than likely, that falls under officer discretion, and that's that way with traffic.
Okay.
If, most of the time, your first offense, you're going to get a warning. If you do it again, then you essentially will get a citation.
Yeah.
I would suggest that this is coming into and going to be enforced, I would suggest that a specific fine, which we do have for like city ordinance, careless and imprudent. It has a specific fine.
Okay.
Through the building department and through other ordinances, there is no specific fine. It's a range. I had actually talked to the mayor, and I had suggested with Judge Ramsey about possibly coming up with specific fines for each violation instead of it necessarily having to be a summons to court. It would only be a summons to court if they fail or refuse to pay their fine.
And this will be on the smoking, like if
Well,
there
not
was
just
like,
smoking,
but
it'd be
for everything.
everything
Okay.
on city ordinances and the building department.
Okay. The other example I had, unfortunately, I wanted to mention it, was this March Circle daycare.
Actually, ma'am,
You can't?
we can't discuss an open case,
You can't?
not the specifics on any open case,
All right. How is it open?
because it's not closed.
Because they've been given a warning. It's not.
They have been given a deadline. That's all I can. That's all I
Okay,
can say.
all right. I just wanted to bring it up because the neighborhood is in an uproar.
Yes.
So, I had a lot of questions answered by you. I also had questions answered by the mayor. I had questions answered by Ann Armstrong, and I really appreciate that because there was not much clarity about what was going on, and I appreciate you doing this, coming in. I know that it's your night off.
No, it's okay.
That's all I have.
Anybody else, David?
When something is going on, some action's taking place, somebody's received some kind of a notification or something along that line, probably a citation, I guess would be the word to use, and the activity could be construed, it continues, and the activity is illegal. What is the steps that you would use then to stop the illegal activity?
Essentially, all there is by municipal code is they would receive a citation for each day they're in violation. The main thing is if there was a citation issued originally. A citation and a warning are two completely different deals.
So we
A warning. The process in certain ordinances states that they get a written warning at first. They have so many days to comply, and after that, they can be issued a citation.
And that's in an ordinance now, the 10 days?
Actually, it's in the ordinance, the Clean City ordinance. Depending on the violation, if it's a minimum maintenance, it's 10 days. If it is abandoned vehicles, it is 7 days.
But what if it's maybe an illegal business? Are they given 10 days?
Essentially, that's by ordinance, no. There's nothing that specifically says they're given 10 days.
So if it's an illegal business...
But that is also officer discretion, and that's a very slippery slope you don't want to cross.
I'm not going to debate that with you. I'm just going to leave that one alone because I think that's fraught with problems.
Here's my philosophy, and I told council whenever I was hired on, I've told several residents, if someone has a violation and are willing to rectify it, and they show me that they are serious about rectifying it, they don't necessarily get a citation. There are other instances where there have been either people or places that were doing business without a city license that weren't necessarily cited if they would come and rectify it. If they refused to rectify it, then they would receive a citation.
So if the business is doing an illegal business that even by the state or something doesn't have approval by the state to be doing that business, and the city doesn't deal with it, and discretion is used and periods of time go on, my question would be to the attorney, at what point does the city have any liability should that business do any harm and or create a problem if the city knew that it was operating illegally?
Depends on what they're doing that's illegal.
Okay. Just running the business, maybe.
If just simply running the business and I don't know how that would necessarily harm someone directly, but
Depends
except
on the
maybe
business.
not paying their taxes, which the state could move on their own part to
Well, probably just in what type of business they're in might be a problem.
But if at some point officer discretion would have to go up to the chief, if the chief didn't feel that it was being done properly, he could order it done. I mean, our building official, if it's a code violation, is our chief person. And if neither one will act, the mayor is ultimately the top cop for the city.
Yeah.
So
He
There you go.
Bad boy.
what kind of message then does that send when you have a potential business that is illegal and it's continues on and continues on when it happens to other business? I'm thinking of something that's going on up towards the Crescent right now and how that's being dealt with, and they're being held to a certain standard, and that standard doesn't apply. I'm worried about the concept of equity.
pretty much the city would be covered by immunity from an action from the other parties. But if there's somebody that is clearly violating the law, it needs to be rectified, and that would go through the mayor's office.
Some of the issues, if they have a permit for one thing and they don't have a permit for another, can be called what we call a show cause hearing, where they have to come in and show cause on why their permit shouldn't be revoked.
But if you didn't have one in the first place and you were just doing business...
Most businesses have permits to begin with.
Most do, but some say one didn't.
And if the ones that you were referring to did, or do have permits. And so those permits can be revoked. And people pretty much jump at that point. The ones who don't have a permit, if they're operating without a business license, then they're given that, as Bobby Ray was talking about, a warning, and they have so many days to rectify that. If they don't, then they get that citation. The problem is if they don't get if they don't get the warning, if they're showing where they're in the process of doing something, if you give them a citation prior to that and it goes to court, because then all of a sudden it's a legal thing and they're going to court, the judge will say, well, they're in the process of getting this taken care of. It's kind of like people who have, you get a ticket, or I get a ticket for having expired tags. I said, but my tags aren't expired. Well, I don't have the ticket. I don't have the little thing on there. And he said, well, you bring that to court and we'll dismiss it. And so I don't get it. I don't have to. It gets dismissed on that because I'm showing that I was in the process of where it was okay. It was already legal, I guess. In that case, it may not be a good example. But
We're being stupid.
Anyway, so it is, but if somebody's continuing on, then they'll get that citation. Mickey?
Depending on the kind of business it is, it sometimes takes longer with certain businesses to get resolved simply because you can't do something overnight.
Right.
Some things just take a while, and that's where the discretion comes in.
Anybody else? All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Bye, Bobby.
All right. So are we all done with... No, we got one more new business. Resolution to renew art wall.
So moved.
This is the resolution. I get a second on that? I guess I did.
Second.
Okay. I think most of y'all know that we've got the art wall down here behind Mud Street on city property. It's got local art on it. We were supposed to have this resolution is good for 2 years, and it was time for it to be renewed. We've actually let it slip a little bit. And so we decided it came to our attention that it was needing some work, and we're getting ready to do some work, but it was also pointed out that we need to go ahead, if the city wants to continue this, go ahead and get this resolution done. Mr. McClung?
I make a motion that we assign this resolution a number and read it for passage.
Second.
Yes, Peg?
I just want to ask, there's artwork already up there.
Yes.
Is that artwork coming down?
No.
And there's new artwork being put up?
There's going to be some new artwork going up, yes.
Like additional work, or some of the pieces?
We've got a limited space.
Yeah.
So what comes down will get replaced.
The Art Commission handles it.
And they'll take care of the work gets back to the artist?
They make all the decisions
Okay.
on the artist and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering what happened to
You can have our wall to do what you want with, and they go, cool.
No, the artist supplies the artwork.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And then if something, they sell it, then it gets replaced or...
Okay, I was just curious about it. I mean, I think it's wonderful. I was looking at it today.
Okay.
I didn't know it was going to be an ordinance.
It's a resolution.
A resolution, excuse me.
All right, any further discussions? All right, roll call.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Ms. Kendrick?
Yes.
Ms. Adamson?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider?
Yep.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
6-0. The resolution number will be 707. A resolution in support of the continued use of certain city property for the public display of art. Whereas the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, in an effort to promote business for the city, and whereas the mission of the Eureka Springs Arts Council, which is under the mayor, is to advocate for the arts and to encourage, empower, and coordinate a sustainable arts economy through the diverse creative community of artists and arts organizations in Eureka Springs. Therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, the Eureka Springs Arts Council is approved to continue to use certain city-owned property for the display of arts as follows. The Eureka Springs Art Wall displays located in the First Street parking lot and the off-the-wall displays located on 23 North Main entrance to town. That said period of use shall be no less than 2 years from the date of the approval of this resolution, with renewal possible by future resolution. Section 3, that the Eureka Springs Arts Council is hereby authorized to continue use of, modify, and/or develop guidelines, rules, and regulations with regard to said display as necessary.
Thank you. All right. So that takes care of the new business. Now on to unfinished business. We have ordinance number 2253, land under jurisdictions of parks.
Motion to
For
discuss.
its second reading. Mr. Mitchell.
I make a motion to have the second reading on ordinance number 2253 by title only.
Suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules by title. Read it by title only.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Question?
Yes, sir.
Will there be discussion after this vote?
Well, we still have another reading to go on. Or we can talk about it now. That's what this is for. Discussion
Motion
now.
Second, you can talk. I mean,
Oh, I can talk now?
it's discussion.
I mean, yeah, it's discussion.
Okay. Well, I really am hoping that people will vote against this, and I'd like to present 2 reasons. Number one, currently in our country, we're in a movement to do away with environmental protections, and there's a movement to send pipelines through sacred lands and all kinds of things. I really want that extra buffer of having the Parks Department watching our green spaces, and I don't want to eliminate that. That would be my first concern. I think it's important. Parks is green space oriented, and I would like them to have first shot at protecting our lands. The second one is, when there is a green space, for instance, I have one next door to me, if there's a tree about to fall on my house, who comes out to fix that? Right now it would be Parks, wouldn't it?
Yes. If it's in a green space, city-owned property,
Okay. So
like an alley or street or...
So if the city takes back all these green spaces, then the city is going to take assuming financial responsibility for all the upkeep on those.
Correct.
So then I think that's another consideration. We're pretty broke as it is. Okay.
All right. Ms. Kendricks?
Under the current ordinance, Parks is not obligated to remove trees. And so as far as that goes, there is no change whatsoever. And the city has other ways of protecting its green spaces through protecting its trees and the regulations that we have against cutting them.
Ms. Schneider?
Well, as I stated at the previous meeting, we purposely put these things under the charge of Parks for very good reason, so we wouldn't have to mess with it. And I still am having a major problem with number 2 under section 1E in regards to saying that we can take away any part of any trail that we want at any damn given time without giving any notice, making any kind of substitute plans or anything else. So people who have come here to use our trails for walking, hiking, biking, what have you, can end up in the middle of having to turn around and go back because the city deemed it necessary to remove. This is not right. It is not fair. It is stealing land from the people that we have sworn to take care of for the goodness and the purpose of the people.
Mr. Mitchell?
I understand Councilman Bob's concern. I just don't necessarily consider trails to be green space. When I think of green space, I think of parks. I think of the broad expanse of leather wood. And the master plan for trails was either walking or mostly biking. The second part where Mickey is down there about it, I still believe that the citizens within the city limits need to be considered, and I think this ordinance very clearly allows property owners within the city limits to have a very clean, straightforward process, and I believe they have rights too.
Mickey?
You were on council when we passed this over to Parks and you agreed to it so that the people, the townspeople would have this kind of clear, safe property because it wasn't owned by them, and this kept it nice and clean and usable.
Ms. Kendricks?
The city owns all of this property. It is not owned by Parks, and we as city council ultimately have an obligation to use this property for the benefit of the people, and there is no reason to believe that we wouldn't do so.
Like charging them an arm and a leg like you wanted to do before?
Mickey, David?
I didn't vote for the master plan for the very reason that it didn't protect the citizens.
Not the master plan.
The master trails plan.
No, I'm not talking about that one.
All right. Any other discussion? We've got a motion and a second. We need a...
It was suspending the rules. Ms. Adamson? This is to suspend the rules and read it by title only.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Ms. Schneider?
That part.
Nope.
Ms. Kendrick?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
5-1.
Okay.
Ordinance number 2253, an ordinance amending Chapter 12.08.01E of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code regarding lands under the jurisdiction of Parks and Recreation Commission.
Mr. McClung?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2253 on its second reading.
Second.
Discussion?
I have a little question. It's been brought to my attention just listening to everybody here. If this part about under E, Section 1, Part E, number 2, this sounds almost violent, being able to sell or exchange or take. The city can do this. But the Parks Department would have been able to do that in the past, is that true?
No. Parks,
She'll have to come to us, but they can do that.
Yeah, they can't do anything without our permission,
Okay.
without us going through something. Mr. Weaver?
The chief difference that 2 makes is it allows this council to do it without any type of notification to parks or action by the parks.
So just removes Parks to streamline the process?
Parks will no longer be involved, and if the city council decided to do an emergency at one meeting, they could potentially seize upon a piece of a trail, sell that trail, or give that trail away, or otherwise dispose of that trail without anyone else being made aware of it beforehand, other than what would be the notice at that meeting. Now, this council is not known for doing 3 readings and an emergency clause very often, but it does do it. And this would allow.
Other councils have.
Other councils have a lot more.
Ms. Kendricks?
I would like to point out, it simply allows us to do it. It doesn't mean that our procedures are going to be set up to just completely avoid parks. I anticipate that whatever procedures that we put into effect regarding vacations or whatever else we do with streets, we are going to involve all commissions and departments that have anything to do with the property.
Okay.
Ms. Schneider?
Good intentions are fine, well and good, but whether it would be this group or a group of councilmen 10 years down the road is immaterial. You open the door, someone at some point will go through.
David?
Just going to reiterate what Councilman Kendrick said. The property belongs to the city. It's the city's property. It wasn't given to parks. It was the city's property. The city controls it.
All right, any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of passage of ordinance number 2253 on its second reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, 4-2. All right. Date for workshop. Smoking. Date for smoking workshop.
You teach us how?
Do we need to take a smoke break? Oh. How about April the 5th at 6 p.m.?
April 5th.
Oh, go ahead. I'm
Did you
sorry.
say April 5th?
April 5th.
There's an election.
What day is that? It's the 5th.
But is it, it's a Wednesday?
We could put it with the water meter thing and really...
There's an,
that'd
there's an election on the 5th.
For what?
Oh, it's a Carroll County election in Berryville on the 5th, Butch. Did you hear? Okay.
It's Carroll
What
County,
time?
what's the election for?
It's the Democratic Central Committee election
Oh, that's in the evening though, isn't it?
at 6
Oh.
o'clock.
Oh, at the same time?
Yeah.
I thought it was changed. Didn't know that was...
No. The last I've heard, as far as I know, it's
You
at
better
6
put it on a
o'clock
different
the
day.
5th. And everybody will be there, or doing, or whatever.
Okay, well, maybe that's not a good day.
I don't think it's a good day.
How about the 6th?
Excellent.
That's a Thursday.
Yeah.
Anybody have a problem with that one?
Is that Easter week or is that the next week?
Easter isn't until the 16th.
Oh,
Huh?
It's a week and a half later.
I'm going to be gone, so we'd have to have the pro tem chair it.
What? Easter?
No,
Oh,
the
Mr.
6th.
Anti...
I'll be gone on the 5th, too, though.
I don't...
When? What?
Yeah.
You'll be here for the water one, though, won't you?
Yeah, I'm going to leave that to you, too. No, I am going to be out of state The 31st through the 8th.
Well, we can wait until next week if you'd like. Look at that, he's trying to weasel out.
It's a workshop. Ms. Kendrick?
Is this going to include consideration of my ordinance that I drafted?
Yes, I would think
Okay.
so.
And when are the rest of the council members going to get that ordinance?
I don't know. What we got?
It's in Mr. Weaver's inbox.
It's in Mr. Weaver's inbox.
Mr. Weaver?
Well, have we authorized him to do this?
Just reviewing it, actually, what we're doing. We got, trying to figure out what we're going to do on this. So,
What about the 12th?
He's weaseling out, don't you tell
we
him?
got something going on. Oh. We could do it on the 12th of April.
CAPC.
Okay.
It's the 13th.
Saved us.
13th.
What day of the week is that?
Holy Thursday.
Thursday.
It's Thomas Jefferson's
That's
birthday.
Thomas Jefferson's birthday.
Yep, see?
It's a reasonable day then.
Okay, the 13th?
Okay. 6 p.m.
And council will get the 2 potential ordinances before then for reference?
Yeah.
Very good.
If someone wants to write another ordinance, is there any limit on the amount of time that I could get assistance from Mr. Weaver?
You have to get approval.
Hmm?
You have to
Fortunately,
get
that's a month
approval
away.
to let him do it.
We do have to get, who do we get
We
approval
have to
from?
pay him.
Who do we get approval from?
And mayor or council, both, I don't remember.
Are you saying you're not happy with either one of the 2 ordinances?
I haven't seen them, but I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just wondering what the
Or are you
process
just
is.
throwing stuff out there so we're trying to muddy up the water again with
Well-
how many ordinances we can give Mr. Weaver?
I'm just wondering if I have the option to consult
I think
with
what
Mr.
has
Weaver.
happened, I'm not disagreeing with you. If you want to write an ordinance, you're more than welcome to bring one to the table.
Can I
Now,
get
The
No,
workshop.
why would one person be able to
because you've got to write it yourself.
do what now?
That's what Ms. Kendrick
Oh, I
did.
know
She
that.
wrote hers.
Right.
If you want to write one, you can bring it to the table. If Peg wants to write one, she can bring one to the table. We're trying to find somewhere where we can mesh something together so we can get it to the city attorney to put it all
I
together.
agree with that 100%.
And so that's the whole process. Ms. Kendrickson, as an attorney, wrote one that she seems to think is fine. And so we're making sure that there isn't anything wrong
Right.
at this point. Now, if you have one that you want to write and present, bring it on.
And he would check it to see if there's
He
anything
can
wrong?
check it, and I would allow him to
Okay.
do that.
Excellent.
I'm not going to allow him to go around helping everybody write an ordinance.
You can write one.
And I'm not real comfortable with this, but she's being an attorney, she's kind of writing it on her own and presenting it as such. So I think, now, are we talking about the date? I'm sorry. Well, I really got off on sidetrack.
April 13th, 6
Yeah.
p.m.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't
Thursday.
have talked about it.
It's in the workshop.
Huh?
It's on the workshop.
It's on the workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But you were saying no.
No. All right, we're all set for that?
Yep, how about a vote?
All in favor of, what's the date? Again?
Thursday, the 13th at 6
Thursday the
o'clock.
13th for a smoking workshop, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved.
I thought you were saying go ahead and have your, just say what you wanted to during discussion, and then you went into a vote. I was just going to say, we don't want to be tied up in a workshop for 10 hours, so let's keep it to ideas for heavens and
All right, I'm sorry.
That's novel.
We got
Thank you.
sidetracked here. All right, now, next item, I think, is the agenda setting. Peg?
I just want to know, how much time do I have to get somebody seconded if I have an item for the agenda that is after a city council meeting? How much time do I have?
2 weeks.
Is the time clock ticking?
Publication is
I'm not sure what the question
Tuesday
is.
before a council meeting.
Okay.
But you're not supposed to go around calling people to get seconds.
Well, how do I get it seconded?
Do that right now.
Through Ann.
Even if I don't have one? Even if
Or-
I don't have something to put on the agenda?
Or You can do it
A blank agenda?
during approval of the agenda.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, Mr. McClung?
A council person can discuss something with another council person that's not on the agenda.
Not if they're trying to get it on the agenda.
You can't do it.
Not even if they're trying to get it on the agenda?
You have to go through
I think that would be a case of,
The rule is you're not to be speaking to another council person or council persons if it is likely that it will be voted on at this table in the future.
So you go through Lynn.
So you do it through City Hall. I never bring anything to the table anyway. I just like to participate.
all right. City council comments, Paige?
Wait a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mickey. Right.
I thought you were going to go around the table and ask. Okay, the closed captioning was brought up tonight. Is that something we've ever looked into?
Yes, and we can't do it. Cox Cable does not have the ability to do it, and because this is a private...
A monopoly.
No, that's because the meeting is just for us. It's not ADA required.
So we have
Cox Cable
looked into it. Cox cannot
Cox
do it.
Cable will not do it.
So we need to have that stated. Okay, thank you.
And okay, yeah. Yeah, we did look into it, and Cox Cable, and also as far as transcripts go, word by word transcript, that's also not.
Okay. Does anybody know if YouTube is closed caption able? I've never paid any attention.
YouTube is not closed caption.
Okay. I don't know. I didn't know. I've never paid any attention.
You got to go through certain things. A lot of things on TV is not closed caption.
Well,
I mean, there's some.
Since I do my own signing, I've never paid any attention.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, now we'll go around the table with council comments. Ms. Kendricks?
No.
Mickey?
Yeah. I want to congratulate my husband on putting up with me for 34 years. Come St. Patrick's Day, it'll be our 34th anniversary. That's it.
Mr. Mitchell?
No, pass.
Ms. McGrath?
No, sir.
Thank you for participating.
Thank you. I enjoy participating. It's an honor.
Mr. Thomas?
No.
Okay, since you brought that up, I just wanted to say that I got a message from my partner in Australia saying that she was on her way from one place to another, but she had to stop on the way to pick up a baby kangaroo to take it to a nursery.
She's not going to bring it here?
She's not going to bring a baby, little Joey here, but I thought that was a great thing to bring to Eureka Springs.
Yes, so, Maddie needs to bring it here.
Thank you.
All right. And y'all, I've only have 3 items. Looks like the March 18th, this Saturday, is the Victorian Classic, starting at 7 a.m. for all those runners out there. But also at 11 o'clock is, I don't know what they call it, soup. There's a benefit where they have soup and dessert at the old high school right after the race or during the race. All the city's restaurants throw in, make their favorite soup or dessert and up there, and it's a great benefit, and I think that's going to be benefiting the community center up there. Also, at 2 o'clock, right after you get through eating up there, you can come down and for the St. Patty's Day Parade.
To celebrate our anniversary.
Nobody's going to be pouring anything green into the Leatherwood Creek, so we won't have to worry about that. And then March 25th is the 27th Annual Kite Festival. Wow, 27 years. From 10 to 4 out at Turpentine Creek. Does anybody else have anything?
It's also the Legion Chili Cook-Off the same day.
When?
That night, March 25th, 5 to 6. It's their fundraiser.
And where is it?
It's at the Legion Hut, the new one on...
Holiday, on 23 North?
Okay. 23 and 187.
All right, thank you. If I can get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Hey.